Fake friends. Like, yeah, no, dude, he's gonna lead a fucking military coup, brother. You're right.
Your mom, your dad, your pastor. Listen to somebody. We have to change this. This is bad.
Voting day came at a tough time for Philly residents. The city's been on edge since the police shot and killed 27-year-old Walter Wallace Jr. last week. No officers have been charged. Wallace's death brought protests to the West Philadelphia neighborhood where Reverend David Brown's church is.
Oh, my biscuit.
We ain't touching.
Okay, give me this.
With so much at stake in this election, the Reverend checked in on the polling sites in his community.
Some people had mail-in ballots.
Okay,
they didn't bring them.
Yep.
So they had to go get them.
Yeah, that's about right. Show it from 10,000 feet, because you ain't coming down here. No, it says vote today.
Vote today. 5 letters, and it begins with T.
Oh, my goodness.
What has been the energy like here in West Philadelphia?
Man, well, I would say that initially the lead up until, the violence that we had recently has been one of optimism, I think. I think a lot of folks in this neighborhood in particular feel like they've been left behind. This is an opportunity for us as people to kind of get and make their voice heard by voting.
So Walter Wallace Jr.
Yes, sir.
was killed by the police.
Yes, sir.
Recently.
Yes, sir.
Just a few blocks.
Just a few blocks
right?
from here, 8 blocks, yep.
Right. So with this election happening with that as its backdrop in West Philadelphia, does the community...
Okay, top of the hour every hour. All right. You wanted it. Here it is.
even, connected to?
I think the connection between that killing and Election Day is something that we kind of recognized a long time ago. There's going to be racism. There's going to be police brutality, something that's not new. If you don't vote, then you don't have a voice in that level of reform. So we encourage folks to mail in a vote, be here on Election Day. All those things matter because otherwise it's going to continue. And it's been continuing for far too long.
Police brutality has been a problem in Philly for a long time, but not everyone shares the Reverend's feeling that voting and a change of government is the solution.
When you vote, you give them your power because you're choosing one of them, right? You don't have to give them your power. Build community within your families and within your neighborhood. That's where the power is. A lot of people are focused on this election because of the racism that comes from Donald Trump. But Biden is racist too. He's the one where he said, we can put people in jail for life for jaywalking. All of that crime bill and all.
Well, technically, he said everything but jail walking. But he's right. This dude is base as fuck and also totally true. Totally right. Ne kadar uzun sürecek? Oh, o zaman ben order ediyorum peki. Bekleyemem.
All this stuff he's saying he regrets, how much of that is he trying to change?
Mike Africa Jr. grew up in MOVE, an organization born in Philly on the foundation.
Oh, I did. Okay, well, a lot of people are about to learn a very quick history lesson about actions that the American government has taken against black people inside of U.S. borders.
Of black power, ecological principles, and animal rights. From the start, they were a target of the Philly PD. His parents and 7 other members were arrested in 1978 for allegedly killing a cop in a shootout, though MOVE members say the single bullet that hit the cop was shot by another officer.
In 1978, when the mayor sent them hundreds of cops to our house, they arrested my mother, my father, and 7 of my brothers and sisters and put them in prison where they stayed for a minimum of 40 years. And then when we were fighting to get those people out of prison, the government came.
Hold on. Sorry.
Came again, and they dropped a bomb on our house on May 13th, 1985, and killed.
That's real, by the way. That's not fake. That's real. For those of you who are unfamiliar, that's like literally a thing that the American government did. Hey, guys. A lot of people don't know this because it doesn't get fucking taught in schools, I guess. I don't know. Everyone is always shocked when they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean they dropped a bomb on a fucking Philadelphia city block? No, they did. Tulsa is different. Tulsa is like, at least Tulsa is like KKK and shit. And like racist white people. The burning of Black Wall Street. It's still fucking horrific and disgusting. And also still taught as a race riot, even though it was just like It was basically just white dudes killing and burning down black businesses. It was a massacre, not a race riot. And that is if they teach it. And this is, how do you drop a bomb like that? Here, I'll show you. It literally shows the video. I don't think it's TOS. I'm a little worried that there might be like blood, but hold on. Okay, actually, I don't think there's any blood there. Hold on. That's why that dude is based as fuck, by the way. I was wondering. I was like, where is he coming from with these fucking hot takes? Look.
Minimum of 40 years. And then when we were fighting to get those people out of prison, the government came again and they dropped a bomb on our house on May 13th, 1985.
Yeah. Yeah.
And killed 11 of them.
Was it the government or some white guy? No, motherfucker, it was the police. What do you mean, was it the government or some white guy? By the way, people saying random white guy with heli bombs, well, they did do that in the Tulsa Massacre. In the Tulsa Massacre, they used actual fucking, they used actual planes. It was one of the first, like, bombing campaigns on U.S. soil. They did. They dropped Molotov cocktails and, like, and I think they even used, like, artillery. They literally used crop dusters to drop fucking bombs. Like, the Watchmen, yeah, this is the block. This is a moment where 80,000 people get radicalized into recognizing the horrific nature of the American government and what it has done throughout its history, as it has a monopoly on violence. This is, of course, seen as a defensive measure and justified through and through. For the crime of being a part of a black liberation group that refused to leave the block, on May 13th, 1985, Frank Powell, a Philadelphia police officer who was the chief of the city's bomb disposal squad, was given an army-style green satchel contaminating a bomb made of C4 plastic explosives of the sort widely deployed in Vietnam. He boarded a state police helicopter and took up his position, balanced precariously on the skids of the aircraft. As the helicopter rose in a crystal clear blue sky, he carried out his orders. Flying over a largely African-American residential neighborhood of West Philadelphia, he lined up his sights, lit the 45-second fuse with a military igniter, and followed his orders. His target was a roof of 6221 Osage Avenue, a row house which at the time had 13 American citizens inside. They were all members of MOVE, a group which combined the black liberation struggle with back-to-nature environmentalism. Each MOVE member took the last name, Africa, to signal their commitment to race equality, as well as to each other as family. For years, they had been in a running battle with the Philadelphia authorities, culminating that May in arrest warrants for a range of offenses, including terroristic threats, riot and disorderly conduct, being served and a standoff ensuing that ended with the dropping of Powell's bomb onto their house. Led to one of the great, largely forgotten outrages of modern America. The fire spread, by the way. Of course. The bomb dropped and the fire spread. The police commissioner at the time, Greg Sambor, decided, famously, to let the fire burn. Do you understand? By the following morning, 61 homes had been razed to ashes, leaving 250 Philadelphians destitute and homeless. Only 2 of the 13 residents of the move house got out alive. The remaining 11, including 5 children aged 7 to 13, were reduced to ashes. Five fucking children. Like I mentioned already, as the 35th anniversary of the bombing approaches in this article that was written on May 10th, 2020, efforts were underway to raise public awareness because this is one of the rare times in U.S. history that American civilians were attacked on domestic soil by aerial bombing. The other incident I already mentioned to you is the Tulsa massacre, was when white supremacists dropped dynamite onto African American homes and businesses in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. For the record, there was never a formal apology from the city. And not a single person that played a role, including the fucking dude who dropped the bomb, eviscerating fucking 5 kids, were ever prosecuted. Not a single one of them. No charges, no prosecution whatsoever. Just remember that. They were just following orders, chat. What you don't recognize is they were simply following orders. Okay? Let's get back to the story, though. This person is related to them.
Of our family members. No police officer has ever been charged for any wrongdoing. They've never spent any jail time.
I read a bit of your story, and it's heavy. You were born in prison.
That's what they tell me. A lot of people can't survive what I survived. What I survived would kill a lot of people.
What was it like after 40-something years when they were released?
It was like a dream come true. Well, imagine getting your mother, who was naturally supposed to be with you, and you never had that for 40 years. And now you got it. No restrictions. I tell this story like I missed so much time with them. I built this hope chest, right?
Next time you ask me questions like, why haven't I learned about this in chat? Remember that, like, our president's, perhaps his last executive order before he enters the lame duck session, if he is no longer the president, which is likely to happen as a consequence of people voting in Philadelphia, actually. His last act was the 1776 Commission? It was ordering a commission to make sure that we taught patriotic education. Patriotic education, of course, is whitewashing these atrocities further, because these atrocities are, of course, whitewashed. We never learn about it. There is never an honest account of the actions that the American government has taken against some of the most marginalized people that it's supposed to protect and serve.
Right. So I'm sitting on the hope chest, and I'm just sitting outside of my mom's door. And she comes out of her bedroom, and I noticed that she was barefoot. And when she came out, I looked at her feet, and I realized that I didn't recognize them. I'd never seen them before.
Africa's mom got out in 2018. His activism has continued. Right now, he's building a space for podcasting, gatherings, and community work.
You building this space for you, right? You need permits for that, right? Permits come from the city council, elected officials. And then you see that the policies that they're putting in place have a direct effect on you trying to build your community. Is it not prudent of you to try to affect who goes into office to create those policies?
To quote John Africa, move ain't talking about changing governments, replacing one corrupt dictator enslaver for another. Move is talking about doing away with all forms of external government and replacing it with the government of self.
Have you ever voted?
Nope.
Never voted?
Never. You got somebody at a challenge qualified.
The person in the chat be like, sweaty. Sweaty, your privilege is showing. Listen, I'm not gonna make fun of anarchists too hard in this circumstance. I think here's a dude who has suffered enough under an oppressive government, an oppressive state that has destroyed his entire fucking family. So he gets to not vote as a political act, and he can do that.
Immunity with these police, they can't just kill people at will and then get promotions for it. I'll vote for that person.
While people who did vote were waiting for results on election night, hundreds of cops were posted in the streets waiting for something else. Unrest, perhaps, but they didn't get it. In the meantime, Philly residents are getting back to regular life.
How you doing?
How are you?
Hey, Show. What's wrong?
The election, maybe?
Well, yeah, hey, still coming. I'm still getting text messages on returns and all, so we just gotta wait and see.
This presidential race is razor thin, contradicting all of the polls that came out prior. You know, what does that say about this nation?
I think that it means to me that we have moved, forward since the last election, 2016. I think that also it's still fragile. And in order to keep that peace or this democracy, this is part of the process.
It seems like this chasm is something that is much more pronounced.
There aren't subtitles, I'm sorry.
Razor thin margins that we're seeing, right? With that, there are people who are saying that your plight and struggle as a black person doesn't matter. In the event that the election results don't turn out in the way that this community wanted them to, how can you bridge that gap? And if you're a black man in America, if you're a trans person in America, how can you begin to trust, and I'll put it frankly, white folks who voted for Trump because that vote to them seems like you saying, you don't matter.
I would argue the opposite, that this shows that my life does matter as a black man, as someone who identifies with a certain gender identity, because I got in the game. Because before, you know, I recognize that I can move some things forward because of my voice, because of my activism, because of what I do. And I would say that it doesn't make it easier going forward, that if one side says, like, I've won, and so far, I have to decide whether I matter or not.
Mind if I chat with you while you do this?
Yes, sure.
Guys, Decision Desk called Pennsylvania like hours ago. You're new. Okay, we know. It doesn't mean anything. It's Decision Desk and Vox, okay? We're not running on Decision Desk and Vox here.
So, what are you doing here?
Right now, we're spraying on both that joint, spray chalking.
Both that John, that's
Biden's lead is now up to 20,000 in Pennsylvania. Allegheny County has a lot of other votes left that they have left to catch up on.